Hello everybody, Penny here from East Hertfordshire Family Centre Service. Now, emotions. We have them from the moment we are born. Some of them can be quite challenging, can't they? And as we're children, we're exploring and managing those feelings and quite often it's very, very confusing, isn't it? If you can, talk with your child about those feelings. Talk about how you're feeling. If you're feeling a little bit cross or sad or happy, tell them about that, and maybe you can say the reasons why, and encourage them to do so, perhaps with your or other trusted relationships, because it can be quite a positive action in itself. Now, there is a physical way in which we can manage and explore those emotions, and that is through sensory play. It can be a bit like messy play, because it does include some messy play activities in summer, but it is different from that. So our arts and crafts session today is going to be sort of focusing on that sort of sensory play area. Now, you can use just like a blanket or a towel, or maybe have a container, an empty sand tray or anything, or seed tray is quite good. I know pasta is brilliant for this. So you could just put out the pasta and just let your child explore what that is, the feeling of it. If they're able to, maybe they can scrunch it. There's some wonderful different shapes and patterns for pasta these days, I have to say, and use that. There's some small, they might like to just move their finger through, make marks, patterns, maybe go into pictures. Rice is another one to do. Feels quite different. Just putting your hand into that rice, that's the same for me, into the bag, that's quite, it makes a lovely sound. Put those in the same sort of tray or something similar to that, or again put them out, perhaps mix them. Oh, I love that sound here as it sort of goes on to the other. And again, mix the two up, have a go. It's just using that and making the marks and things can be quite comforting to a child. It's quite therapeutic in that way. And as a child gets older, if they want to, you could transfer making those pictures onto paper. Doesn't have to, just use glue and add that, so you've got it onto paper and they want to make a picture of it. But really, you're just sort of focusing on handling it and touching it. You might want to include a spoon or something, and just picking up and putting the things in to a bowl or a cup is lovely in itself. You fill it up, it's that sound, it's just that sense of lifting and putting it in. You filled it up. Maybe you want to just pull it out or put your hand underneath and do that. You can also use these sorts of things for making sensory bottles, shakers. We love the shakers. And again, that is really anything you've got. Just use an empty see-through bottle. Doesn't matter how big, what shape, what size. Just fill it with whatever you've got. Again, using these dried foods are brilliant for putting them in. You might want to use, or they might like to use, a funnel if you've got one. If it goes in, and just watch that drain through, so it doesn't have to always be the physical side of things. It's just watching something pour, as we might do with just pouring water, the sound, so our eyes are focusing on that. So whatever you've got, colourful things, so that can be things that make sounds, things that don't. Feathers. These are artistic feathers, but you might find feathers outside. Perhaps just give those a wash before you put those in and dry them, and you'll wash your child's hands. Things like rubber bands, yeah, they don't make a sound, but it's something different to push in and do. Maybe sort of pull about. Things like cotton wool, again, another sensory thing because it's soft. And some children just might like rubbing something like that across their hands or on their face or up their arm. It's whatever it is that's for them, but just be very careful when we use things to put in that we don't have things that are perhaps too small, or be wary that our child may or may not put those. near his or her mouth. So just always be wary of those things. So those are some things you can use there. And again, when if you've got a tray or a deep tray of something, always great just to add small toys and things to go in there to move those around. But it really is just focusing perhaps on that touch and that sound. Another thing perhaps, particularly for sight, and it can be, is making a sensory light. Just use a torch. Just get your torch and just add crepe paper or some sort of light see-through paper, or maybe even a very light see-through sort of fabric. Put that over the top. I've just used an elastic band to fix it. And then you turn it on. Granted, it's difficult here, but then you could just use that. Sit under a blanket, a cover. Maybe you've got something sparkly. Just move that around and watch the reflection and the light as it goes. Many children do like sensory lights, and we watch those. It's just that it's quite a calming thing, and if you're doing that for yourself, that is quite fun. Change the colours, maybe have a go at putting different shades on the top. So that is something else that is quite good to do, working on that. Again, with something else that is using our hands and things like this, is using a different texture. Using flour. Using things like porridge oats. Using things like cornmeals. That has got a lovely texture to that as well. They're all different textures, and children feel differently towards that. So again, I'm just going to use the porridge oats. Put those onto a tray or anything again, and it's just using and rubbing them between. Particularly this sort of light one is you might be able to make your hands print on there. What about adding water to it? Have a go at adding water, see does that feel like, and you can make through that. These are just sort of activities you can sit and do quite quietly and can bring emotions down. It doesn't have to be those emotions where we're sort of angry or quiet, but just sort of happiness as well. We might want to do that. Particularly shakers could be that. That can be a shakers are great when we're feeling really happy. And also perhaps if we're feeling just a little bit angry, because we can perhaps shake our anger out, if we like get rid of it that way and bring ourselves down. Now, another one that I particularly enjoy is shaving foam. So if you've got some of that, I'm just going to put those down there, is shake that and just watch that as that comes out. Put that into blobs. Oh, I'm watching that grow, just looking at that. Looks great fun. And then, oh, that really lends itself to sort of the smell, because it smells, and just looking at that, oh, what's that going to feel like if I put my hand on it? Some children are not very keen on the wetter products, and that's fine. So just looking and making it available, maybe just prodding, but just putting your hand. Oh, I'm enjoying it. So you put your hand into it and watch that. That's a really lovely calming effect for me, and using it between the fingers and squeezing it. It's very soft and velvety. And again, you may be able to add, if you want to, they might want to add something in between. So sort of finding those and doing that. And it can just take away from those way that we are perhaps feeling at that time. Something there, or just for pure enjoyment. You can add things like baby oil or shampoo to them as well. How does that affect? Does it change? Mix that in. Does it smell different? And maybe if you've got essences, those are lovely. Something like lavender oil or something like, just a little bit, just checking that it's okay for hand use, and use those, and then sort of wipe and do. So those are some ways of doing. Another one I'm going to use, that's quite useful, is I've got water here and my good old newspaper. Now, tearing is brilliant. So just tearing the newspaper, wow, makes a lovely sound. I love that. And again, very good. But put your newspaper into the water. I've just got very lukewarm water here. And then just squeezing the newspaper. Oh, gosh, what's that? Making it into shapes. You can squeeze that, maybe squeeze that into a different pot. When you've got that, you can then use that to bend into shapes. Or just really the squeezing action of it. Strengthening hands, but importantly, it's just that lovely feeling of doing it. So you can bend them into shapes and make patterns. So some of these lend themselves to perhaps making into a permanent picture, but that's not the focus of this. So that's something if your child would like to extend to do that or use these things in different ways, is sort of having that. So using your wet newspaper and just having that lovely, very tepid water. Now, about doing a little bit of painting. This is called frozen painting. Now these are melting a little bit here, I have to say, but use ice cube container or even something as small, but just with a greater depth. You can either put in just a little bit of liquid paint or food colouring. Put that in. So these actually have melted a little bit while I'm sitting here, but use that, put a little bit of water, fill it most up with water, then add that little bit of paint or food colouring. Pop it into the freezer for about 20 minutes or so, and then take it out again, and then just put in lolly sticks, emery board, and it could be a twig or something that you found outside. Then put it back into the freezer so it holds up and becomes looking like a paper. Leave them into the freezer until you're ready to use. It might be a few seconds before you can get them out of that. I will demonstrate with my finger using that, and then you can use that just to paint with your ice cube. Just see if I can get that one up. There we are, that one's come out. And use that. The paint will generally come out a little bit brighter and bolder in colour than the food colouring. But that's just lovely, the idea, and even just feeling that, maybe they want to use it with their hands. So, frozen ice cube painting. So those are just some ideas that you might use that sort of focus particularly on those senses, those 5 senses that we've got, that can help manage, just explore and perhaps make sense of those emotions that we all feel. So I hope you can find something there that you can enjoy, that maybe give you an inspiration or idea for many ways that you can use this type of way into helping sort out and explore and bring us down to that level. So enjoy. Bye bye.